standards there in Florida. A controversial part of these new standards is instruction for middle school students to learn, quote, how slaves develop skills, which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. The largest teachers union in the state has spoken out against the new standards, calling them, quote, a step backward, adding that students deserve the full truth of American history. For more on this, we are joined by Andrew Atterbury. He is an education policy reporter for Politico based in Florida. Andrew, implying that enslaved people benefited from their bondage has understandably upset many people. How are folks in Florida responding to this?
Sure. Hey, thanks for having me. Glad to be here from Tallahassee. So that they came out on Wednesday at this meeting, and this is really the first time that people got a glimpse of what these standards look like. And it was a firestorm for the Florida Department of Education and the Board of Education. People that were there weren't too thrilled with these lessons, but the state, they were proud to roll these out. This is something they've been working on for a while. Like you said, they come from the Stop Woke Act. That was something that specifically Governor Ron DeSantis requested last year. The woke part is actually an acronym. It means the Wrongs to Our Kids and Employees Act. That was something that was one of his biggest parts of his agenda back last year. And that what the law actually does, it creates new protections for students and even workers is a whole other part of it, that a person shouldn't be instructed to feel guilt, anguish, or any form of psychological distress due to their race, color, sex, or national origin. So because of that new law, they decided that they needed to change all of these the standards too. So they actually created a whole new carve out on Black history, which is why they were so proud of it. It was something that they thought went even deeper than their previous lessons. But whenever these were rolled out and you saw some of the framing of it, some people really took issue with it.
Andrew, I should say that we reached out to the governor's office and they pointed us to a statement that was shared by the Board of Education. It reads in part, quote, Florida students deserve to learn how slaves took advantage of whatever circumstances they were in to benefit themselves and the community of African descendants. How does this differ from what has been taught in the state in the past?
Well, when you look at the lessons, they really didn't have any specific carve-outs for Black history. So this is all, for a lot of this stuff is new things that they're introducing, which is why the state thinks this is good for them. We're actually going deeper into some of this stuff. But when you look at, like you said, the way that some of these were worded, like the benefits of it, people said that was just absolutely not okay. I mean, you saw this getting issue. People were raising, like civil rights lawyer Benjamin Crump was talking about this. So this was getting a lot more attention than just Florida, which is probably not something that people expected, just from the way that it was rolled out. And as you and the statement that you mentioned earlier, the state is also taking aim at the teachers union, saying that a lot of this is their fault and that they're blowing up an issue that the state thinks really isn't a big deal. And this is something that you see a lot in Florida. DeSantis administration, the Department of Education, they're constantly at odds with the teachers union. This is things that go back to the COVID pandemic, teacher pay. I mean, that's pretty typical for Florida, but there were other organizations as well. There were state lawmakers, there were Democratic lawmakers who raised issues with this. The NAACP was there. I mean, so there were several other groups too. So it's not just teachers unions, but that's kind of what the state is doing a little bit, is needling the union, saying y'all kind of sparked a lot of these concerns.
Well, I'm sure that there's also parents who are concerned about this, and I'm wondering where we go from here. The Board of Education made up entirely of DeSantis appointees. So what recourse do parents have if they disagree?
Well, now this really falls on school districts to carry this out, and then we'll go through picking textbooks and things like that. But as far as the state goes, I mean, these are the standards now. These were unanimously passed by the Board of Education, and the Board of Education stood by these too. You know, they said the whole history is there. They said that they stood by these, and that they kind of downplayed the complaints as saying, you know, that we think this is great, and people are just missing the point, basically. So from the state's perspective, this is pretty much done, which is why you see them defending it today, and they doubled down on it again today, saying that this is what we're going to go with. And you still, even speaking to some of the concerns, I mean, Vice President Kamala Harris spoke out about it. She's supposed to speak in Jacksonville today. So this is getting a lot more attention than I think folks really expected it.
Okay. So, yes, I cannot believe I did not have this on my bingo card in 2023. I did not have this on my bingo card, especially with Florida. How with Florida? I should not be surprised that it's Florida. The Florida Board of Education has just sat there and said, we are now, for our educational benefit, going to teach kids how slavery had a personal benefit to those who were enslaved. I cannot believe in the run of this podcast, we are actually saying that. And that unanimously, because as the man pointed out, the whole board is a bunch of DeSantis favorites. So saying that the board voted unanimously and of course he's not saying this, but to others may think that, well, the school board approved this. That's like saying a bunch of KKK people approved lynching to be the license plate of Florida. That's what it says. And again, for all those that are just wondering, there is no personal benefit because this is what they did. Florida sat there, and a lot of people who are now seeing this, a lot of people beforehand were just like, this is just the outcome of what's already happened. When DeSantis, I mean, everybody thought, and I said this, and you can go back to my podcast and remember when I said this at the beginning of the Don't Say Gay bill. I sat there and said, and I'll repeat this again, DeSantis will go after everybody, not just the LGBTQ plus community, not just them. Because you know what he did? He went after CRT next. We're banning CRT, although CRT is not being taught anywhere except the law school. That's it. But he went a step farther. He decided to take out certain books out of school, which those certain books were by people of color and those by LGBTQ plus authors. He didn't take out the Diary of Anne Frank. He didn't take out Flowers in the Attic. He definitely kept Chicken Soup for the Teenage Soul in libraries. But that's not all. Then he went for African American AP studies and said, I don't like what Black kids are learning. Black kids and other kids are learning. Because more than Black kids just take African American studies. All races do. But the fact that he did not like what was being taught there, because one, it had, he believed, LGBTQ plus indoctrinations. They're indoctrinating our kids. That was the big wave. That was the big wave for a couple of weeks in Republican land, wasn't it? And again, all lows. And yet this new low was that now that there's going to be some teachers, which I hope to God every teacher in Florida that has common sense will not teach this. I hope they don't. Because not only is it untrue, you're desensitizing what happened to one group of people because another race of people benefited off the backs of those who were enslaved. Because personal benefit, what personal benefit was there to slavery? Oh, because they can't give an answer. That's what the school board sat there and said, well, they're just blowing us out of proportion. I'm asking a question from an educational standpoint. What personal benefit that those that were enslaved had that helps their advantage? Because they didn't get 40 acres and a mule. They didn't get any job skills. They didn't get anything as far as contributing to those of their slave owners. What personal benefit was there? If you ran, you lost a foot, you got killed. Buck breaking. Oh, let's not forget buck breaking. For all those that don't know what buck breaking is, Google it. See what personal benefits there were to those that had that happen to them. Those that were bred. Because, certain Black people who were enslaved got matched together because they wanted to produce. They wanted the strongest, biggest guy to mate with said woman. Why? Because they were interested in the kids. They were hoping that the kids would produce and be just as the same as the male. Oh, there was a lot. See, this is the thing about history. There's a lot of messed up stuff that happened during slavery, but they don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about the fact that Black people were treated as cattle. We were selected. We were broken. We were breaded. We were selected. They don't want to talk about that. But it is amazing to me that for America has this problem with slavery. They don't want to, they barely admit that it happened. They barely admit that slavery happened. But when it comes to the fact of apologizing or trying to solve it, which I know a lot of white people go, well, that's where he's going to talk about reparations. That's partly of it, yes. Only because one group of people got a 400-year advantage over one other race that is still trying to catch up to this day. But the point I'm making is education should be taught as a whole. You want to know how we move forward as a society? We do have to acknowledge the errors of the past. We have to acknowledge that slavery was a very dark time in America's history, and the fact that one group of people have to admit that their ancestors are responsible for it. However, to not talk about it and to continue that cycle makes them just as equally responsible as those that they sat there and purchased Black people that were on those ships that came to our shores that you swear up and down you had nothing to do with, but you keep perpetuating the very same system that was put in place many years ago. And forgive me as I say this, but the fact that they said they got a personal advantage or some benefit out of this, out of being enslaved, miss me with the bullshit. But again, this is why I sit there and say, with Ron DeSantis, he's going to have a problem. I mean, outside of the fact that Chris Christie, which again, Chris Christie has always been one of those guys that's always, he jumps in. He's kind of a vulture when it comes to this stuff. He'll jump in on something when it benefits him, but he stays out of it when he gets nothing out of it. Like, for example, in this case, he sat there and said, I am not okay with this. He said, quote unquote, DeSantis started this fire with the bill he signed, and now he doesn't want to take responsibility for whatever it's done in the aftermath. Fair. It is fair. I will give Chris Christie that yes, DeSantis made the grave that is currently digging him in. And at the same doggone time, this man supposedly, I mean, it is amazing to me when it comes to the fact that DeSantis, everything that he will say. Like, for example, while he was on the road, before we get to the big thing about DeSantis, but while he's on the road, he sat there and said, quote unquote, the January 6th attack was not an insurrection. He said it was a protest that devolved into a riot, but there was no plan to somehow overthrow the government. Yeah, there were no plans at all. Surely there wasn't a person on January 6th that was in front of a podium that riled up a group of people that didn't sit there and say, we need to get together, go down the street and stop the steal. Again, DeSantis, and this is why I say part of DeSantis. This is why I say I love this part of DeSantis. I love is what's happening to him. I never want to see anybody hit a downfall, but man, karma is just winding up for this man. At the same time, the fact that he said January 6th was not insurrection, which it obviously was. The fact that he is turning Florida back to the 1950s, and now as he's on the presidential trail because he is a candidate for 2024, it's not working out the way he thought it was.
Back as Florida Governor Ron DeSantis works to reset his sputtering presidential campaign, he will have to do it with a lot fewer staffers. NBC News has confirmed that the DeSantis campaign has fired more than 40% of its original staff after concerns about how fast it was burning through cash. The news was first reported by Politico. DeSantis spokesperson Janera Peck, she's the campaign manager, told NBC in a statement, following a top to bottom review of our organization, we have taken additional aggressive steps to streamline operations and put Ron DeSantis in the strongest position to win this primary and defeat Joe Biden. NBC's Matt Dixon broke the news for us. He joins me now to talk more about this. So Matt, walk us through your reporting. What is the campaign going for here and why is it happening now?
Well, the term we keep hearing is, quote, lean. So there was a donor retreat in Utah this weekend where a bunch of donors got together and kind of got an update from the campaign. And they sort of orchestrated that this would be coming, that they needed to get smaller. There was 92 staffers on Governor DeSantis' first presidential campaign finance report, which is a really, really big number. So the idea was that they were burning through cash at a faster pace than they wanted to, and they needed to get smaller. And that's kind of what we're seeing. I think there are some who are surprised by the sheer number. The campaign is let go 38 people of the 92 originally staffed. And that's a significant number for a campaign that's been out there for less than 2 months. But they are acknowledging that they got too big too quick and they couldn't afford it.
Yeah, and it does seem like some of the moves, classic resets of a campaign that is struggling. You write in your piece that they want to focus more on earned media rather than expensive, large-scale events. How does that look? And is that something that Ron DeSantis particularly is the type of candidate that does well in an environment like that?
Yeah, for better or worse, their decision-making process is saying, hey, we should stop paying for these large rallies, these large campaign events that require a lot of staff, a lot of preparation, and a lot of, money. And let's just give Ron DeSantis a mic. He's done, he did more mainstream media interviews. He's done more podcast interviews. And their calculation is that the spinoff, the quote, sort of earned media or the coverage of Ron DeSantis doing those events is going to be enough and worth it to sort of tamp down some of the larger rally type things that we have seen. Now, if that works, or not to sort of close the gap he has with Donald Trump is yet to be seen. But their calculation is give Ron DeSantis a mic, let DeSantis be DeSantis, and somehow it's going to help him grow in polling and help sort of resurrect the campaign. And that's kind of what we're seeing, the early stages of that part of the reset.
Okay, so yeah, give DeSantis a microphone and he will save himself. We've seen how well that has done so far. Now, again, you can sit there and say it's a reorganization, but let's call it what it is. DeSantis is realizing that everybody outside of Florida, which is his own little kingdom, is not going to agree with him. And he's finding that out because, number one, he's outside of Florida. Number two, unfortunately, Donald Trump is not in prison yet. I have been saying this since the beginning because we are in the stages, because we're not too far off from 2024. We're in July. We're not that far off. 5 months away. 5 months away from the start of 2024, from the start of the next presidential campaign, presidential candidate year. We're not that far off, ladies and gentlemen. Donald Trump, surprisingly, is still not in jail. He is doing his hardest to push back every case he has against him. Because why? He wants to run. Because folks still go to his rallies. Folks still give him money. Folks still believe he's the president. Despite whatever tinfoil hat that you believe in, folks still believe in it. The point I'm making out of all this is, even with all that being said, Trump is still a possible candidate to win the GOP nomination, despite the field. And I say a field because we're up to about 9 to 10 candidates now, Trump included, and still he could win the nomination. Even with DeSantis, who I dubbed Trump 2.0, even now he's having a problem because all Trump has to do is go to a rally and give his greatest hits. Say nothing new, blame Biden, blame the current economy, blame inflation, blame everything on the Democrats, say they're disorganized, say that how things were running under him, and he goes into his greatest hits like nothing happened. The crowd will cheer, buy his merch, he hops on his plane, heads to the next spot. DeSantis has to literally reorganize just because he can't match up to what Trump is. And imagine, think about that for a second. You can't match up to a paranoid idiot. That's saying something in the GOP. When a paranoid, out of touch, overweight, completely underqualified individual can still win the presidential nomination over you because you thought you were hot shit in Florida, not realizing you're in a much bigger fishbowl now. To DeSantis, good luck. To the GOP, again, you can't make this stuff up, folks. You cannot make this stuff up. I can't stand Trump. I personally think he was the worst president since Nixon. I think he is, quote unquote, the worst president ever. And that's saying a lot over a man who almost literally got impeached himself. The point I'm making out of all this is why, if anything, now we should be paying more attention, because I said this before, and I'll say this again. Pay attention to the people who are running for office. If you don't like the choices, you can either A, run for office yourself, as we have seen in the last couple of elections. A lot of people have ran for office because they feel like they can make a difference. If you want to do so, bravo. And number two, if you yourself don't want to run, find a candidate that suits you, that actually suits your points and views, and support them, endorse them, push them, write their names on the ballot. Do the democratic process that we have in place if you don't like the current choices. Because I get it. Because even then I talked about in my other previous podcast how they want to do a third choice, but call it no label. And that a Democrat and a Republican want to supposedly run on this, which to me is like insanity double down. So instead of us introducing other candidates from different parties, we're going to take one from each and give a true bipartisan party. Yeah, that works in whatever imaginary land no label lives in. But the point I'm making out of all this, guys, is that when it comes to DeSantis, I'm not surprised. Whether it's the fact that slavery being said that it has advantages, and the fact that, you know, like I said before, I hope educators in Florida don't teach it. I hope they don't. I don't want kids to learn. If kids should learn the true history of America. That's what we should be doing. Because you know why? Because even then, and this is my personal belief, when we fully accept the true, dark, bloody, twisted history of America, then and maybe then things will change and not just give us a monument, which I'll get to momentarily. But move right along, guys. I do want to get on someone else who's being a stick in the mud right now, Tommy Tuberville, who, again, is holding out on military nominations because he does not like the fact that the armed forces has access to abortions. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. He wants to restrict, he basically, guys, wants to restrict abortion access and transgender access in the Army. Specifically, abortion. Because you know why? He does not like the fact that armed service women can drive somewhere to get an abortion and the fact that they can get reimbursed for it. Here's my thing. That's his only gripe. But here's my thing on that. So you being the GOP, swear up and down. GOP, oh, we love the troops. We support the troops. We're behind the troops 100%. Go look at your local VA. Go ahead. Look at your local VA. Ask any veteran that gets assistance and just watch the level of just eyes rolling or frustration or all the above. The GOP cares about the troops so much, cares about the vets so much, but they do little for them after they're done fighting the war, or if they've had an injury or PTSD or things of that nature. They basically treat the Army like a meat grinder. And even more so historically, we do have a couple of generals, first, especially of the African American variety, that'll be the first time leading or commanding armed forces of a large nature since the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Actually, since the first Secretary of Defense, who currently is a black man. But Tommy Tuberville wants to hold out because he believes he's doing the right thing. Now, again, it is amazing to me that the GOP will say one thing and do another. And I know a lot of people are going to sit there and say, well, the Democrats do the same thing, as is in all politics. But when the Republicans turn around and say we support the troops, but one Republican senator wants to hold out, and that should tell you guys a lot, that one Republican senator is holding up 200 plus nominations. That lets you know off the bat something is truly wrong. At the same time, something needs to be corrected rather quickly. But instead of the GOP getting their people in line, Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, decides that, you know what? I'm going to do something the American people have been wanting to do a long time. I'm thinking impeachment of our current president. Why? Hunter Biden, that's why.
Congress. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, as you know, making his most direct impeachment threat against Biden amid unsubstantiated allegations, by the way, that the president and his son, Hunter, secretly took millions of dollars in foreign business deals and bribes. But let's take a listen to what the House Speaker said during an interview last night on Fox, and let's talk about it.
We've only followed where the information has taken us. But Hannity,
Mr.
this is
Speaker.
rising to the level of impeachment inquiry, which provides Congress the strongest power to get the rest of the knowledge and information needed. Because this president has also used something we have not seen since Richard Nixon, used the weaponization of government to benefit his family and deny Congress the ability to have the oversight.
All right, that's a pretty serious accusation there. What evidence is McCarthy pointing to here?
Well, right now, Republicans have a bunch of whistleblowers who have come forward, and some of them are going to be testifying over the next couple of days. But beyond that, they don't have a lot to support these allegations. And that is why McCarthy says they want to start an impeachment inquiry. When he was talking about making the strongest argument for Congress to have the strongest foot forward, he was actually referring to an argument that former Judiciary Chairman Jerry Nadler made against Donald Trump in 2019. It's this sort of argument that when you're in an impeachment inquiry, Congress actually has the strongest hand to get evidence from the White House. Now, of course, interbranch fights are very common as somebody who's covered them for over a decade, but McCarthy is arguing that if they're in impeachment, the White House will have to turn over evidence that it does not want to turn over right now. So we'll see if that actually is the case. I do think that McCarthy's words have to be put in context, in that he's actually under a ton of fire right now from Donald Trump, who is furious with him for not putting up a vote to expunge his impeachment record when he had promised Trump that would do so. And then on the other hand, he's hearing from conservatives who are furious about the spending levels of the spending bills coming to the House floor as soon as this week. So McCarthy is actually allowing himself to sort of blow off steam and sort of say things that will ignite the base and cater to conservative and Trump himself, conservatives and Trump himself, to sort of win back some positive sentiments as he's battling these on different fronts here.
Well, as you point out, right, McCarthy's under intense pressure here from both Trump and Republican colleagues. The chair of the DNC even saying it's clear that Donald Trump is the real Speaker of the House. What does that tell you?
There's a little bit of truth to that. McCarthy has always sort of been in this very tenuous position. I mean, he's got a very slim majority here in Congress, only 5-seat majority. And the reality is that all it takes is one single member to march to the House floor and force a vote to oust him as Speaker. That has been hanging over his head since the day he won the gavel in January. It's influenced his negotiating tactics. It's influenced his decision to write spending bills at a very much lower number than a deal he struck with the White House just a few weeks ago. And, Trump has allies on Capitol Hill who are just waiting for a signal from the former president. If Donald Trump says he wants McCarthy out, they are going to be the ones who march to the floor and force this vote to try to oust him.
Crazy, isn't it? Amazing how a man who still has allies can carry so much weight. Now, don't get me wrong, Kevin McCarthy is basically Mitt Romney 2.0. I mean, he needed Trump's allies to get into the White House, to not to get in the White House, to get into the House of Representatives. Because remember, it feels like ages ago. 15 times Kevin McCarthy went for nomination as House Speaker. 14 of those times, he didn't have enough votes. You don't have the votes. You don't have the votes. I'm sorry, I went Hamilton for a moment there because that's how I felt. You don't have the votes. And he didn't. Because those that were loyal to Trump, like Matt Gaetz, Lorraine Boebert, and a few of those other crazy heads out there, didn't vote for him. It took forever. 15 times for Kevin McCarthy to finally get nominated as House Speaker. At the same time, yes, as the journalist did point out, Trump was under the impression that he was going to bring up a vote to expunge his impeachment record, expunge his people from the record, which means that for all those that don't know, that in order to give Donald Trump a clean slate, to say he's never been impeached, which that can't happen. McCarthy knew that. Donald Trump, unfortunately, doesn't know that. But now you still have those that whenever Kevin McCarthy became House Speaker, they wanted some things done. They wanted investigations and everything that the Republicans be investigated for. Oh, the fact of the documents that Donald Trump had for the weaponized use of the FBI, even questioned the FBI at one point because of the search, not raid, the search at Mar-a-Lago. The fact they wanted to bring Merrick Garland, the AG, saying that he has stepped outside of his bounds, not realizing that the man they're going after is the top lawyer in the country and would know the Constitution better than them. So now what do we have? We have Kevin McCarthy, who depending on who you talk to, decides that he wants to raise the idea of impeachment because he didn't like the case that the president's son was getting. For all those, this is what you call a red herring that has nothing to do with this. I can care less about Hunter Biden. If he's going to cop to a charge, that's him. That's due process. It's got nothing to do with me. It's got nothing to do with me as an American. It has nothing to do with me as a citizen. If Hunter Biden did violate some taxes, let him go. Let him see his day in court. But the fact that he's the president's son is what the GOP hang on to. See, the thing about the GOP, they hang on certain things, like Benghazi. Benghazi. It was almost like saying Beetlejuice 3 times and watch something appear. That's how it felt for Hillary Clinton, who, by the way, got grilled for 15 plus hours and didn't break a sweat. But ask any other GOP senators, they can do the same thing, and they go whining and crying. The point I'm making out of all this is Hunter Biden is a smokescreen. That's it. Something that keeps getting brought up on Fox News and The Blaze and the Daily Beast and all those other conservative areas. They bring this up because they think there's something more. We want to see the laptop. We think Hunter Biden's a coke fiend. He got millions of dollars because he's had a connection to the White House. Yet when Trump was in office, no one complained how all of his kids had jobs and high-ass clearances. But no peeps from the GOP. Not a peep out. Oh, we love Ivanka. We love Eric. We love Donald Trump Jr. But he employed all his kids in some White House capacity and nobody blinked an eye. Yet Hunter Biden, who, by the way, never worked for his father's presidential candidacy because of his troubles, the GOP see there's a problem there and think that the president is stepping in and trying to save their son, which cannot be far more from the truth. But GOP, Fox News, they all keep talking about it because it's a nice, idiotic narrative point that guarantees them clicks and views and entertainment and nothing else. But we as a society get sick of it because, again, Hunter Biden is what he's facing. Nothing more, nothing less. The fate of the country isn't affected by one man in this case, who more than likely will get a plea deal and let that be the end of it. But GOP people and those of the tinfoil hat community can simply not let it go. And that alone speaks volumes. But the other thing I was going to get to, guys, about the monument, mixed feelings about this, as the Emmett that Joe Biden did talk and say that 2 monuments will be put up for Emmett Till and his mom. The sentiment is great. The sentiment behind this is great. And it's awesome. But at the same time, let me play this first.
70 years since the lynching of Emmett Till, whose murder became a catalyst for the civil rights movement. Now Till's memory is being honored with a national monument. Here's Blaine Alexander.
Emmett Till would have turned 82 years old today. Instead, in 1955, the 14-year-old boy was abducted, beaten, and lynched after he was accused of whistling at a white woman in Money, Mississippi. And today, President Biden created the first national monument named for Emmett Till and his mother, Mamie Till Mobley.
We should know about our country. We should know everything, the good, the bad, the truth of who we are as a nation.
The monument will have 3 sites: the Tallahatchie Riverbank, where Till's mutilated body was pulled from the water; the courthouse in Sumner, Mississippi, where his killers were tried and acquitted by an all-white jury; and Roberts Temple Church in Chicago, the site of Till's open casket funeral, a decision by his mother who allowed Jet magazine to photograph and publish images of her son's body, bringing the world face to face with the brutal reality of racism.
What do you remember the most about that day? I just remember being kind of numb. And
Reverend Wheeler Parker was Till's cousin, his best friend, and the last living witness to Till's abduction. He was in the very next room when a group of white men took Till from his family's house.
Stretching my eyes, shaking and talking to God inwardly. And they walked with a pistol in one hand and a flashlight in another.
What was it like there in the house that night after he was taken away?
And nobody talked to anybody. It was just dark forever. I moved from place to place. I talked to anyone till daylight came.
Parker still remembers exactly where he sat during Till's funeral. Now that church is being restored to its original 1955 appearance. Brent Leggs is helping lead that effort.
This will be the first national monument that memorializes examples of racial violence and political injustice.
How significant is that?
It's exceptionally significant so that our nation never forgets.
What happened, at times, still brings Parker to tears. But he says today's news brings some measure of healing. Finally.
This place here is going to be a beacon. Man, it's going to change some hearts of people when they see it, see the story.
A story, now a monument for the nation. Blaine out.
Okay, now it is great. I'm trying to find the best way I can say this. Don't get me wrong. The story of Emmett Till needs to be said in its entirety. It needs to be said because number one, it was definitely murder, and the killers did go free. Even some of them, if you look deep enough in the history archives, will find out that someone got paid to tell their story after they were exonerated. But as great as this is, this feels like, I feel like this is a cycle. I mean, if you think about it, Martin Luther King Monument, Atlanta, Georgia, Malcolm X. I can keep going down the line here. That of all these injustices, that the crimes that follow, it's the whole thing of we don't really get what we should be getting. Like, for example, I'm not knocking the monument. For all those that are watching this, I'm not knocking the monument, okay? I'm not. I think it's great. I think it's educational. I think it's inspirational. But it's not enough. I mean, if we're really being honest, do y'all know that for a lot of people that don't watch this or your first time watching the show, first off, welcome. Second of all, did you not know that lynching did not become a federal hate crime until about 2 years ago? 2 years ago, 2021. In 2021, lynching became a federal hate crime. The same thing that's being talked about, and that would be crappy excuse for a country singer, Jason Aldean, to try that in a small town. Where the courthouse they showed there was actually a courthouse here in Tennessee, famous because black men were hung in front of it. Try that in a small town. The point I'm getting out of all this is that the crimes still follow. That yes, lynching may have taken another 60 years to be a federal hate crime. Yes, that Emmett Till, and in the previous years, where the woman who literally lied about it had a warrant out for her that was never fully carried out. Never fully carried out, and that woman did eventually pass. And I'm sorry to say this, again, watch my language. May she rest in hell. That being said, guys, my problem is that whenever it comes to the black community, along with the whole thing about how our ancestors, as far as slavery and the fact they're trying to whitewash in Florida, but the whole thing of like trying to say, well, they may have actually gotten personal skills or advantages from while being enslaved. That alone was bullshit. Now imagine the fact that years later, hundreds of years later, that when it comes to black people being murdered, being killed, being mass murdered, things of that nature, to this day, it still bothers me that it does not get the actual justice it deserves, nor the actual compensation that should follow. Reason being, You ever notice that when a black person gets killed by those of a different color, it's never racism? Ahmaud Arbery, and forgive me if I mispronounce that man's last name. Remember him? Atlanta, Georgia, just jogging when 3 men decided it was completely okay to follow, apprehend, and kill this man. 3 men took it upon themselves to follow, record, and try to enforce their justice on one black man. Do y'all guys not remember how long myself and others were all saying that's a hate crime? It is a hate crime. And how those on the Fox News side, on the GOP conservative side, all try to sit there and say it's not racism based. How they all try to do character victimization of Ahmaud Arbery, saying, "Oh, he's a bad seed. He was going through homes. Looking around that he had no business being in," as if he invited his own murder onto himself. But remember how long it took for crimes crimes of racism to come up, for them to be times, and it went through hoops to get that done. Y'all guys remember that, right? Okay, well, there's a comparison I want to do to this. There's a story that just came out about a man who was accused of killing 3 Hispanic men and others and will face hate crime charges. Literally, the man here, Charles Robert Smith, accused of fatally shooting and injuring 3 and several others last month, is now facing hate crime charges. Again, this is the thing that just kills me. That 3 of the charges the jury returned for Smith were motivated in substantial part because of the said victim's national origins. It didn't take a jury long to figure out that a white man decided to kill 3 Hispanics substantially because of who they are. It did not take a jury long enough to figure that out. It took literally one case. In the Ahmaud Arbery case, before they brought the hate crimes and civil rights, they had to get through the initial case first before the hate crimes could come up. This was all done in one shot. But again, this is the part that I'm trying to understand very carefully. That
Alabama's redistricting.
Oh, you hush. But this is the part that I'm trying to understand very carefully, because this is the problem whenever I see things being done that are sentiments for Black people and not actual solutions. They're not. Even in the event that we want to be voted, and this is the one thing that I fight a lot. I fight this with other Black people all the time, because when Black people say they don't vote, I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you? It's like, do you not care? Are you not active? Should you be? You should be aware. Don't ever dismiss voting, because those out there will make sure that your vote doesn't matter, will belittle your vote to make you think doesn't matter, will sit there and disenfranchise you to the point to where you shouldn't care anymore. And even so, when we do get justice, it is amazing that the powers that be and those in offices still don't give us what we want. For example, in this one state where they wanted to redistrict in Alabama, I believe it was Alabama, that the Supreme Court ordered a redistricting for a second district that had many Black eligible voters. Here's how the state reacted.
Battle over Alabama's redistricting plan and what critics call the defiance by Republican lawmakers against a U.S. Supreme Court ruling. ABC's Elwin Lopez joins us now. And Elwin, this has national implications for next year's election.
Yeah, that's right, Whit. All eyes are on the South ahead of the 2024 election next year. And now Alabama in this spotlight. This comes just a month after the Supreme Court issued a surprise ruling in a victory for voting rights, ordering Alabama to, quote, include 2 districts in which Black voters either comprise a voting age majority or something quite close to it, so that Black voters have, quote, an opportunity to elect a representative of their choice. And take a look at what state Republicans came up with. A new district where Black voters will make up about 40% of the voting age population. Now, the new map still only has one minority-majority district, and that's why critics say the Republican-controlled legislature is defying the Supreme Court with this new map. Meanwhile, Alabama is expected to argue that the map does comply with the Supreme Court order. And guys, plaintiffs have until Friday to submit their objections prior to the federal hearing that is scheduled for mid-August. Gio?
And that's just one state. One state that was literally told by the highest court in the land that you do need to redistrict because the minorities living there are not being represented well when it comes to elections. And Alabama GOP sat there and said, no, we're doing exactly what you said. You're doing exactly what was ruled, which is not. But again, we get monuments. We get remembrances. While our history is being chopped and screwed in one state and other states, it may not be just Florida. I have a feeling that Texas and the South may actually adopt what Florida's doing. But even more so, when it comes to the fact of other things, especially Black people in law enforcement, like eventually this man here, that again, I asked the question, who was more protected, the officer or the unarmed Black man? You be the judge.
Release the dog. A state trooper repeatedly warns a local officer outside Columbus, Ohio, to hold on to his canine.
Do not release the dog with his hands up. Don't.
In this edited video released by the Ohio State Highway Patrol, you can see a suspect raise his hands in an apparent surrender. But officials say Circleville officer Ryan Speakman still unleashed his dog on the unarmed man.
Get the dog off of him! Get the dog! Get out the dog!
Nothing like this should ever happen to anybody.
Circleville's mayor says following the July 4th incident, the officer was placed on paid administrative leave, but not right away.
Why was he not immediately put on administrative leave?
I cannot answer that question. I don't know.
Also new tonight, authorities releasing 911 audio they say is from around the incident's time and location, with the caller not identifying himself, but appearing to be the suspect.
So now I'm trying to figure out why they got their guns all pointed to me, and they all white people.
State police say 23-year-old Jadarius D. Rose was driving this semi when an attempted traffic stop turned into a nearly 30-minute pursuit.
All of them got their guns pointed directly to me. You listen to what the officers are telling you. They ain't told me nothing. I don't know why they pulling me over.
Then that disturbing canine mauling, reminding some of the 1960s civil rights struggle.
We were mortified by that behavior.
I would hope that race is not a part of this incident. I can't imagine it being.
Do you understand where that concern from some people comes?
Of course I understand it.
Authorities say Rose was treated at a hospital and criminally charged. Records show he's been released from jail, with his attorney declining to comment. We've also reached out to Officer Speakman, but have not heard back.
So again, I say, who's more protected, the officer or the intended? Now, again, pulled over, unarmed, got out, officer with a canine. You can literally hear on the video, don't release the dog. What does he do? Release the dog. And as the journalist in that situation, I would ask the same doggone question. Why in the world is that man on paid leave right now? He disobeyed a direct order. Because for a lot of people, especially when it comes to those of the older variety, they do remember the civil rights. They do remember civil rights back then in the South, where officers did have canines, attack dogs, much like the one in that video. And the same way it is scarring. It does have those lingering moments. But at the same time, the mayor should have sat there and said, oh, he needs to be immediately fired. Because that dog might as well be a deadly weapon. It might as well be. It's trained to subdue, sometimes even kill if need be. It is a trained deadly weapon that the officer released. And I don't blame the journalist for what he said. He's like, why is that man on paid leave right now? I don't know why. Shouldn't you be asking his commanding officer that question? Because to me, it's like, who's more protected? Like they said, they said, I don't know why they're pulling me over. I never got told why. And how many Black people could sit there the whole entire time and literally can relate? We all, like I said, not a lot of Black people, I don't mean to go on this rant, but any Black person out there has a police story. Every Black person does. Sometimes even more than one. But even more so in that situation, nothing's being done about this. Law enforcement still is going unchecked. Officers get protected more than the intended victims they hurt, and even more so. But yet, we get monuments. Asians got attacked during COVID-19, and within days, an Asian hate crime bill was put into place for COVID-19. Within days. Lynching took almost 60 years. 60 years since it almost took from the civil rights time up until now, 60 plus years for lynching to be labeled a federal hate crime. Whereas attacks on Asians during COVID-19, a hate bill was put in almost damn near immediately. But hey, we get monuments. Again, I point this out as well because when it comes again to law enforcement and black people, you guys remember this video?
Is investigating. They took several days before releasing this video, but you have a community asking so many questions about the video you're about to see. And I have to warn everyone, it is tough to watch and even tough to listen to because you can hear the officer crying after the shot is fired.
The entire incident took less than 2 minutes. 2 officers arrive at the home of Alonzo Bagley just before 11 p.m. in response to a 911 call. His wife made complaints he was threatening her and her daughter.
Hey, what's your name?
Alonzo.
Hey, can you step out for me?
No. What you need?
Can you
My
step
dog.
out?
I got dog.
No, come on in, sir. You disturbing the peace. The people next door over there.
Let me put my dog in.
Sit down.
Let me put my dog.
Sit down.
Intoxicated. That's right.
Let her. Hey, come here. Come here.
Put my dog up.
She can put the dog up.
The first officer follows Bagley down the hallway after he says he's going to put his dogs away as his wife continues to yell in the background.
Hey, hey!
The officer realizes Bagley is heading out the door of a balcony and sees him jump from the second floor to the ground below. He then turns back to run through and out of the apartment downstairs to chase after Bagley. Once outside, you hear one officer yell to the other.
He went that way, Todd.
About 5 seconds later, you hear a single gunshot. It's been 1 minute and 25 seconds since officers first knocked on the door.
No. Dispatch, send EMS right now. Shots fired. Shots fired.
For the next 2 minutes, you hear the officers distraught and pleading with Bagley to keep breathing and see the 2 officers administer CPR.
No. Tyler, you're good. Hey, no. Hey, come on. No. Come on. Come on.
No, man.
No. You're good.
Man. Come on, dude.
Dispatch.
Come on, man.
Send EMS right now. 1018.
Come on, dude. Hey, come on, dude. Stay with me. Stay with me.
Hey, put pressure. Put pressure.
Stay with me, man.
Come on. Come on, you're good. You're good, bro.
Stay with me.
Hey, you're good. Hey, keep breathing. Keep breathing. Keep breathing.
Stay with me, man. Stay with me.
Breathing. Hey, you're good, man. Keep breathing. Keep breathing, dude. Keep breathing. Keep breathing. Keep breathing.
Fuck, dude.
Alex, hey, go to the front of the building. Go to the front of the building. Wave them down. Wave them down with your flashlight. Come on. Run. Hey, dude. Hey, you're gonna be all right. You're gonna be all right. Look at me. Hey, look at me. 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 Hey, wake up. Wake up. Look at me. Look at me. Hey, respond. Come on. Come on. Come on. Wake up. Respond.
But he doesn't wake up. Bagley's later pronounced dead at a local hospital. Alexander Tyler, the officer who fired that shot, was arrested today on a charge of negligent homicide. His lawyer says he hopes the body cam footage is thoroughly reviewed for the facts and evidence.
Officers are always faced on a day-to-day basis with dangerous situations like that, and at times where they have to make split-second decisions where they're in a potential life threatening situation. The mere fact that an argument is being made by the investigator in court that he was unarmed does not necessarily mean he's not a threat to the officer.
Okay, so let's just cut it right there because, again, that was a story that we did cover a few weeks ago. And the reason why I wanted to bring that up, because, again, whenever it's officers, who gets more protection? The officer or their intended victim? The reason why I bring that video up, because we do have an update on that, is that the man there you see at the bottom, Alexander Tyler, the one that actually shot Alexander Bagley there, again, an unarmed black man, no weapon was found on him whatsoever, that he did shoot. He was charged in February with negligent homicide. However, he has been charged with a second felony. And the second criminal charge, felony malfeasance, has now been added. Now, here's the thing. He's now got currently 2 charges, negligent homicide and felony malfeasance. Both felonies carry up to 5 years in prison, which means he can get 10 years for killing Mr. Bagley. However, for killing an unarmed man who wasn't a threat to you except that he was running away, that you still killed in cold blood, how is it that manslaughter has not been added to the charges? Because that's the question I would ask, and which they also did ask as well, is that for the simple fact of the matter is the DA is the one that's actually making the choice not to go off of this because they believe that they do not have enough evidence to go for a manslaughter charge. Really? I mean, you don't have enough to go for manslaughter. Unarmed suspect flees away from you, doesn't have a firearm, doesn't have a deadly weapon. You shot and killed him, and by your video, you knew you effed up, but yet it is not manslaughter. Help me understand that. But that's the problems I have with this. That yes, the reason why we went over these things, guys, is because, when it comes to going back to Emmett Till Monument, I just feel like that is small potatoes. And feel free in the comments to tell me otherwise. I mean, like I said, this is just my opinion on it. But anytime we have gross events of misconduct against Black people, it's like we don't get justice, we don't get compensation, we don't get what other groups out there get. But we get monuments. But my thing has always been this. When is this going to stop being monuments? Because monuments only remind us that, honestly, yes, we do acknowledge that this point in history, it did happen. But at the same time, that is the extent of what you're going to get from us. And that alone is the internal struggle I have with this. Others might disagree. Others might be indifferent about this. But for me, that's my internal struggle. That all those monuments do is remind me that that's the extent of what they'll do. Because they will do differently for other ethnic groups out there. But for Black people, it just doesn't seem to be enough. That's all I'm saying. But speaking of things that unfortunately I wish that, they worked out differently. But again, I would be remiss if we don't talk about this, guys. Carly Russell. Y'all probably remember this because we did cover this as a woman who called 911 swearing up and down she saw a child abandoned off the road, went to go investigate. She came up missing. A manhunt was done for her. Everybody was looking for her, some praying for her safe return. She did appear back at her parents' house, but come to find out, she made the whole thing up. Now, the thing about this is, which to me is going to affect a lot of things going forward, is, it's these things about some people playing wolf, some people about the boy who cried wolf. Because we have a lot of missing Black women, black men, and children still out there. The fact that this individual, which if there is something off with her, if it's mental, I hope she gets the help she needs, or whatever is the case with her that made her think that this was going to work out for her in some benefit, I hope she gets the help she needs. But this makes the case even more harder for the next one. Because what if the next black girl comes up missing? What if the next black boy comes up missing? Because now there's that little asterisk to it. Now that this, is he really missing, or is this for attention? Is this hoping this leads him somewhere? It leads them somewhere. It's not the fact of, oh, we need to find them as soon as possible. Because that's the thing that's going to be in the back of a lot of people's heads. That when the next person, when, you know, and you see it on social media all the time, you see people share things, you know, they've been missing since this and this and this. Please share it. Or if you've seen them, please call this number. We're trying to get them home. Because of what happened with Carly Russell, it's going to put that in the back of everybody's minds now. Is the next Carly Russell going to do the same thing? Because will she face charges? I'm sure she probably will. I'm pretty sure she will. But at the same time, guys, it's this whole thing of just how in the world are we going to sit there and justify this now? We can't justify the asterisks because the last couple of times where a black person was in peril, it turned out that they weren't. And now Carly Russell joins that level of the question of why she do it. But even more so, how will we now get help for those out there that truly do need it? Because I'm saddened by this. That, you know, why it's always going to come to the question of why did she do it? Why did she put everybody through this only for her to come back and she's fine? I'm glad she's fine. I'm glad she's okay. But there is something there in that if help is needed, I hope she gets it. But at the same time, this puts an air of doubt into the next kid that comes up missing. That's all I'm saying. But switching gears for a second, guys, we do have some good news to report on, especially if you have UPS, because they're about to make some of y'all packages real late.
A potentially crippling strike by UPS workers has been averted after the company and the Teamsters Union announced a tentative deal. Steve Patterson now with late details.
Tonight, in the dead heat of an emerging summer of strikes, UPS reaching a tentative agreement with its 340,000 worker-strong Teamsters Union, avoiding a potentially economy-rattling labor action. The union, whose members still need to ratify the deal, saying it secured a new 5-year contract, boosting Teamster wages and solidifying safety issues.
But I think it's a great victory for the labor movement in general. We actually took on corporate America and won today.
In a statement, UPS said the deal provides industry-leading pay and benefits while retaining the flexibility we need to stay competitive. But in what's being dubbed a hot labor summer, so much remains on the line.
And used without our permission.
In New York's Times Square today, a day of action highlighting the ongoing actors and writers strike.
We will not have you take away our right to work and earn a decent living.
Those picket lines, with potential to expand, 150,000 auto workers began negotiations for a new contract with U.S. automakers this month. More than 26,000 American Airlines flight attendants preparing to vote on strike authorization. And local actions, like an ongoing Los Angeles hotel workers strike, drags on for weeks.
Workers, whether they're in the hotel industry, whether they are in the logistics, whether they are in the entertainment industry, they are feeling economic pressure and economic insecurity.
And while several of the disputes are fueled by traditional wage disagreements, there are huge fears over new technologies like AI.
There is tremendous insecurity among workers about being displaced by new technology.
And back in LA, writers and actors continue to picket in the heat in a labor action forecasted to stretch on for weeks, if not months.
Okay, so yes, UPS may have dodged a bullet. May have. Keep in mind, tentative agreement. So they may have dodged a bullet, but they didn't have to. Again, it is hot labor summer because I said before and I'll say it again, unions work. You yourself cannot take on corporations who swear up and down because the giving tactic is, why do you need to join a union? You can just come talk to us. We're a family. You ever hear that? Run like hell. The thing about it is, unions carry weight, and UPS, if not but one of the biggest logistical corporations out there, they couldn't afford a strike. When you get that big and your only other competition is FedEx, United States Postal Service, and some areas of DHL, you cannot afford a strike. You simply cannot, especially for a lot of them that actually do last mile deliveries for such e-commerce giants such as Amazon. UPS couldn't afford their drivers to take a strike because the drivers are asking, because the thing about it is, in the grand scheme of things, which I was hoping they give a little bit more details on what they agreed on. Keep in mind, it's tentative, so it's not really set in stone yet. But yeah, you might get an additional $275 in pay. Okay, I still think you should get paid more, but that's just me. My big thing is, will it change the way that, are they going to get air-conditioned trucks? Are they going to get more coverage as far as health and things of that nature? The things that a lot of workers actually ask for. Because here's the thing about workers. Workers have no problem working, but they do want to believe that their job will provide enough for a livable wage, will have enough health coverage for themselves and others, families that they have them, will be able to provide pensions and 401k, safety on the job training, things of that nature. Workers will gladly work as long as they know that their employer is taking care of them, since again, they are basically putting their livelihood in the company's hands. Companies these days have made buku bucks. Amazon themselves have made $100 billion annually. Now think about that. If you're a company that makes at least $100 billion on an annual basis, how hard is it to pay your workers more? How hard is it to get air-conditioned trucks? How hard is it to actually fulfill the needs of what they're asking for, that in order for them to get it, they have to basically bankrupt you first? And again, I've said it before, and I'm not the first guy that said it. I certainly won't be the last guy. But when you want things in America to change, you attack the money. If you attack the money, you will get people's attention immediately. You will always get corporations' attention. Why do you think Amazon is so scared of unionizations? Amazon is terrified of unions, by the way. Terrified. That's why they're trying so hard to be union busters. Even now, as the story said, the United Auto Workers are about to contract negotiations. Now, that's 150,000 plus members. Do you really want to piss off that union? Because without auto workers, almost every major automotive manufacturer in the U.S. would come to a grinding, screeching halt. And trust me, the United Auto Workers will have no problem going on strike because they know their worth. They know that without their members being on those lines, assembling and manufacturing those very same vehicles, dealerships will hurt, but those corporations like General Motors and Dodge and Nissan will all, and others, Kia, will all hurt. And it hurts them in the money. It hurts them right in the bank account. So again, I like the fact that I'm seeing a hot labor summer. And again, if you have a union in your area, please join it. There's strength in that, as you've seen with UPS. Because I don't blame those drivers. Because, had it been 5 more days, because the strike was going to begin on July 31st. The strike was going to begin 5 days from now. UPS was not about to take that chance. And at the same time, even if they gave the workers everything they asked for, you know what's going to happen? Nothing. Their profits will increase, and it'll be like it never happened. And you'll sit, and yet people like me wonder, why do corporations choose to go into strike mode when all they're going to do is give in to the workers? Because that's when they realize, oh crap, there's nobody else that'll do this job but them. That lets you know in America, workers do have power, but power in numbers is how it works. But we will definitely keep an eye out for those industry workers in California, as well as the SAG-AFTRA, because again, writers and actors have joined together in a strike. So if you're expecting anything new from Hollywood anytime soon, good luck. But again, not surprised. The last story I'll get to, guys, before we get to our feel-good segment is basically the thing I've been talking about. The Senate advances a Supreme Court ethics bill. Now, keep in mind, this is after Uncle Tom, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, Uncle Tom, found out to be canoodling with a Republican donor, billionaire, hanging out on his yacht, at his resorts, him paying certain bills that for relatives of Clarence Thomas, the fact that Samuel Alito may have had some misgivings that he didn't actually report to about. And again, we've all said, it's amazing. The highest court in the land, the Supreme Court, doesn't answer anybody. They have a quote unquote ethics review, but the ethical review is done by members of their own court. There's not anyone out there that's going to hold the Supreme Court accountable, as the thing of checks and balances. In this case, the Senate Judiciary Committee, the Senate Judiciary Committee did vote to advance legislation. The vote itself was 11-10. All Democrats were for it. All Republicans opposed it. Surprise, surprise, surprise. The bill called Supreme Court Ethics, Recusal, and Transparency Act is now up for a full vote. Now, does that mean they can go through? It's possible. Democrats still have the majority in the Senate. So there is a chance that it could get passed. However, it's hard to say, because it is amazing to me that Supreme Court justices, and again, this could be just of their arrogance or their position, they always feel like they don't need to answer anybody else. How dare you? I am a Supreme Court justice. How dare I answer to anyone? I am a judge. It's always that above all else mentality that always amazes me how they act sometimes. But the point I'm making out of all this is, what's the harm? The president gets checked by the House of Representatives and the Senate. The AG is checked, even though he could, quote unquote, indict the president, but he also has to have pre-approval, unless overwhelming evidence, has to get it from the House. The House can advance a bill, but needs the Senate to approve it before it goes to the president's desk. The president can veto said bill, which sends it right back to the House, who can vote on it again and overwrite the president. There are checks and balances to everything, ladies and gentlemen, except the Supreme Court. And that's why I am not against the fact that a judicial bill is being put in place for an ethics committee to be formed, that the Supreme Court has to answer to. Why? Because oversight is needed for those who don't think it. When you don't think oversight's needed because you think you're a responsible adult, that right there, my friend, is arrogance. Simple and plain. But we'll see how that goes along. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and move on to our feel-good segment, because usually on How the Frack we got here, we usually cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom, sometimes make use of faith and humanity. But hey, it is hump day, which is Wednesday. Tomorrow is Friday, which is Thursday. We will leave you guys out some good vibrations. And this feel-good story, I hope, does the trick for you.
America strong. Living through a terrible ordeal can easily derail hope, but not this 14-year-old from Philadelphia, now even more determined.
It was one of the deadliest fires in Philadelphia history, devastating the city's Fairmount community in January of last year. 12 lives were lost.
Basically, it was just a whole bunch of screams, loud noise, stomping. It woke me up.
Tahara Scott and her family lived on the first floor, just below the apartment where the fire broke out. Tahara, pregnant with her fourth child, carried each of her three sons to safety. The family lost everything, stayed in her grandparents' basement for 5 months until they found a house of their own.
Just one day at a time. We stay close to each other.
14-year-old Zyke is the oldest.
I'm a good person, a hardworking person, and I love my family.
The honor student will start his first year at a STEM school where he'll focus on his favorite subject, math.
That was lit.
And play his favorite sport, football. The 6'1" freshman linebacker already catching the attention of college football recruiters. The family says a coach from Penn State has shown interest.
If he's not at the gym with his dad, he's at a training. It's nonstop with him.
Determined and resilient, Zyke setting an example for his younger brothers. And after surviving through tragedy,
I got a chance to do special things.
Grateful for the opportunities in front of him.
My dreams for him, I just want him to be successful, do what he loves.
No doubt a very bright future.
Yeah, exactly. And I love seeing stories like that. That to me always gives me hope, not only for the next generation, but at the same time, just goes to show you that, you know, despite anything, we can always, as a people, and I don't mean to get preachy about this, but we always as a people seem to find a way to overcome and do some miraculous things. That just goes along to show you that, yeah, there's something special about us. Magic. But anyway, that being said, guys, that's going to do it for this podcast. Thank you all for watching, for liking, for letting people know this is live. I certainly appreciate that. Some shameless plugging before we do get out of here. Shout out to my boy Vaughn at Big BZA Dot. Definitely check out his YouTube page, his beat page, where he does put beats on there for free. He doesn't ban you like certain people on YouTube do. And also, if you are interested in purchasing beats from him, definitely check him out, Big BZA Dot, on all social media. As for me, guys, you can find me BlackFox447 on mostly all the socials. I usually do reviews and everything that I watch, watch, read, play, things of that nature. And of course, the link at the bottom made it a little bit bigger for you guys to find and see. If you'll copy and paste that into your link tree, it'll take you to the YouTube, Facebook group that has all the links for all of my podcasts, How the Frack We Got Here, Get Bit, and of course, the Off Limits podcast. Definitely like, share, and subscribe. Let me know what you think, especially about everything we talked about, because again, I want to keep it all going. I want to know what you guys think, and not just because it's me. At the same time, guys, again, we got to be more about the sharing. I mean, if you know somebody out there that is trying to do something great, or just trying to do a business, or just do something different than the norm, share it, support it. It doesn't always got to be monetary. Sharing is free. Now, if you choose to donate, that's on you. But again, somebody's trying to do something different. We need encouragement. We need to share. We need to be the word of mouth. We need to unify. You know, back in the old days is how we used to do it. So again, support them the same way you would support Beyonce if she knew you existed. That's all I'm saying. But again, the last thing I'll say about How the Frack Got Here, guys, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are simply giving you all the information to allow you to make up your own mind. But we do provide a logistical perspective that basically helps along with it. We do a lot better society as once informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past by making decisions now that we should have done back then, like electing our first Black woman Supreme Court, electing our first Black woman Federal Board of Governors, electing our first Black woman as a National Cybersecurity Director. All great things. We don't learn from history. We are doing to repeat it. That's when we keep asking ourselves, why does everything go about our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the Frack We Got Here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll all get through this. Peace.